welcome.
Every year in America, there are more than 25 million people who don't go hungry because of the charitable programs that provide them with food. And every year, more than 1 billion pounds of that food reaches them through us, the nationwide network of food banks known as Second Harvest. Much of it is donated in the form of salvage, supermarket products that cannot be sold, usually because of damage to their containers. Unfortunately, anything that compromises the outside of a package can also cause damage to what's inside. Damage or contamination that makes the product unfit to eat or to use. Here at the food bank, it's our job to make certain that what we redistribute is safe, and what's not, it's disposed of properly and promptly. That's where you come into the picture. You're part of a team responsible for handling salvage, for inspecting it, sorting it, even repairing it. And for the next few minutes, you'll see how it's done. Of all the salvage a food bank receives, as much as 50% may have to be discarded. In some cases, that's because of its nature, what the product is. For instance, it is illegal for us to redistribute prescription drugs, pesticides, and some other toxic substances. We don't redistribute homemade foods, even in cans or jars, because we can't really know the condition of what's inside. Nor do we redistribute baby foods, because with infants and their underdeveloped immune systems, even the slightest risk is too great to take. A second factor that makes products unsuitable for reuse is their condition. They may have been dropped, struck, or crushed. They may have been opened. They may have been exposed to other products or harmful organisms. Whatever the cause, there are two effects that may immediately disqualify products for reuse. One is damage to the label. The federal government requires that a product have a legible label which lists the name, maker, ingredients, and net weight. If we can't relabel it, we must throw it out. A more serious reason for rejecting a product is contamination. Spoilage of a food product caused by something from the outside. The most common contaminants are non-food substances, such as cleaning solutions, pet food, or broken glass, airborne bacteria, insects, and rodents. Anytime we even suspect that food has been contaminated, we dispose of it promptly and properly. If we allow contaminated food to reach the hungry, we endanger the health of the recipients, violate government regulations, and expose the food bank to lawsuits. All of these are reasons why we devote much of our energy to making sure that we handle salvage according to a strict set of practices and procedures that have two main goals. First, to identify products that are unfit for use, isolate them, and dispose of them. And second, to handle products that are fit in ways that will protect them from damage and contamination. To meet these goals, the salvage operation includes 7 steps: receiving salvage, pre-sorting, evaluating, sanitizing, and repacking it, quality control, and cleanup. Here we'll look at the 4 steps that will involve you most. First, pre-sorting. The purpose of pre-sorting is to catch problems early. With this in mind, you'll examine salvage as it comes into the food bank, looking for obvious signs that it is unfit for use. Most salvage will arrive in banana boxes or other cartons that have been used before. First, examine the box itself, looking for signs of contamination, including rips, liquid spills, gnaw marks. Open the box and examine the lid and contents. Check for spills, broken glass, rotten odors, evidence of insects or rodents, and toxic products. When toxic products are mixed with food items, we must assume everything in the box is contaminated. The only exception is canned products, which may be able to be sanitized. If you do find damaged or contaminated products, look for packages that can be salvaged anyhow. For example, many cans and aseptic plastic containers are salvageable if the contamination is only to the outside of the container. If absorbent packages, such as those made of paper, appear contaminated, the product is usually discarded. So are opened cans and jars. Whether or not the products are salvageable, Remove each from the box and place it in the area set aside for it. Your supervisor will explain which products go where. Once we receive them, we always keep food products separate from non-food items. You'll find isolation areas for containers for toxic products that are damaged or leaking, for cleaning products, and for pet foods. Open pet foods are discarded immediately. When the box is empty, examine it again. If you find signs of contamination, discard it. If not, set it aside for reuse. Even products that pass the pre-sort may prove to be unusable. During evaluation, you will check each container more closely. The number of things you'll be looking for may seem overwhelming at first, so always keep two principles in mind. First, if you have any questions about a product, ask your supervisor. And second, you're never doing recipients a favor by sending them questionable products. So follow this rule of thumb. When in doubt, throw it out. In evaluating cans, it is important to distinguish between two types of defects. If a can has only a superficial or aesthetic defect that does not signal possible contamination, it may be salvageable. But if it has a serious defect that does signal potential contamination, it must be discarded. Here are some serious defects to look for. Cans with bulged ends, except for carbonated drinks and dry foods such as coffee. The bulge could indicate gases caused by bacteria. Cans with leaks or signs of leaks. Cans with fractured or damaged pull tabs. Those with dents on the lid score lines or the rivet area. Rusted cans with pits. Cans crushed to the point that they can no longer be stacked, except for those with carbonated drinks, dry foods, and acid food products. Flippers, cans whose ends can be flipped back and forth. And springers, those with bulged ends that spring back when you depress them. Again, except for carbonated beverages, dry foods, and acid food products. Cans with deep body dents where there's evidence of a fracture. And cans with defects at the seams. You should also discard any of the following canned products. Those that are home canned, they have no code numbers. Those with damaged opening devices, such as pop tops or pull tops, and aerosol cans with missing outer caps, unless these can be replaced. Can lookalikes, made of plastic or foil surrounding cardboard, should be evaluated with dry food containers. What about glass containers? For those that hold non-food products, discard any that are open, broken, or leaking. Discard those that do contain food products if they were home packaged or canned. If they are obviously defective, chipped, cracked, missing tops, or leaking. If they show any sign of contamination under the lid or mold around it, because there may be no way to keep it out when the jar is opened. If the top is loose to the touch, or the inner seal is discolored or damaged. If the cap is bulging, rusted, or dented. If the cap has a center button and it is raised. Or if the contents, when held up to a light, show signs of foreign contents, mold, discoloration, or unusual product separation. Separation is not unusual with salad dressings. When it comes to dry food packed in paper or plastic containers, here's what to look for. Some packages have an outer container only. If there are any rips or punctures, discard it. The product has been exposed. If the package is taped shut, discard it. Don't retape it yourself unless you are the one who damaged it. Some packages include both an outer and inner container, such as breakfast cereal. If the outer shows signs of contamination, discard it. If it shows damage only, repair it with tape. If the outer is damaged beyond repair, but the inner is intact, put the inner with the label in a food-grade sealable plastic bag. If both the outer and inner are broken, discard the product. With other products, keep the following in mind. Paper and plastic food service items can be salvaged if they are not contaminated or exposed. The criteria for determining contamination are the same as for food. Cleaning products can be salvaged, but can also cause contamination. Torn containers of dry or powdered cleaners can be taped. Broken containers of liquid cleaners should be discarded. For personal care items, such as toothpaste, diapers, and feminine hygiene products, discard the product if the container is damaged. For over-the-counter drugs, aspirin, cough medicine, follow your state or local regulations and the procedures outlined in the Second Harvest Distribution Manual. Remember, all packages must have a legible label. Discard the package if the label is missing or illegible, unless a new one can be applied. However, if only the nutrition information is missing, the product can be salvaged. Cans with the following aesthetic defects do not need to be discarded: moderate flat-rimmed dents on the double seam, side seam, or juncture of the side and inseams; rust that can be wiped or washed off, or slight to moderate flattening on the sides; impermeable packages, such as cans, jars, and sealed plastic pouches, can have contaminants on the outside, but still be salvageable. First, though, they may need to be sanitized. Here's how. If the package is a can, pouch, or semi-rigid container, you'll sanitize it in a 3-tub sink. Follow these steps. If the label is paper, remove it. Wash the container in the first sink, containing warm, soapy water. Rinse it in the second, containing clear, clean water. Sanitize it in the third, using a chlorine solution. If this needs to be mixed, your supervisor will explain. Air dry it and reapply the label. If it is a jar or container whose closure may not be waterproof, for instance, tape-top juice containers, and if there's no contamination under the lid, you'll still wash, rinse, and sanitize, but this time using 3 separate cloths or sponges dipped in 3 separate solutions, and using care not to get any of the solutions under the lid. Before it leaves the food bank, salvage needs to be sorted and prepared for distribution. Different food banks distribute in different ways. Some put salvage in boxes only with one type of product in each. Some fill each box with an assortment of products. Some store products on shelves where agency representatives can shop. Regardless of the system, you'll usually sort products by type, keeping food and non-food products separate, and toxic products such as cleaning powders isolated from the rest. If your food bank reboxes products, follow these procedures. Make sure the box is clean. If you package by product type, put only one type in each box. If you prepare mixed boxes, put one product of each type in each box. Do not pack cleaning products and other toxics with food, food service, or personal care items. Pre-sorting, evaluation, sanitizing, and repackaging. These are some of the steps you'll take when you handle salvage. Steps aimed at identifying the products that are safe and separating them from those that are not. You'll learn a lot more about each from the people you're working with. In the meantime, remember why it's so important to do them diligently and do them well. Because as part of the team here at the food bank, you're not just handling salvage, you're fighting hunger.